Hi there, welcome to Embroidery's February Stitch Along video 1. First, I'd like to say a big thank you for choosing my channel and this pattern to join in with this stitch along. Whether you are new or an experienced stitcher, my goal is to help people learn new stitches or help them push their creative boundaries, stitch something you wouldn't necessarily usually stitch. In this stitch along, I will be using 5 different stitches: the satin stitch, back stitch, alternated back stitch, the seed stitch, and the long and short stitch. But with the long and short stitch, it will be more random, not so clinically smooth as what some of the videos show. And together I hope that we can make a beautiful final piece. I'd also like you to choose whatever colours you'd like to use for this pattern. It doesn't have to be green leaves. You could have red leaves and a blue flower. My pattern, I've decided to use some dark blues, very dark navy blues, almost black but not quite black, because I'm doing a flower called the black swan. I don't know its technical name. And I will be using greens for the leaves, and the center of the black flower has yellow bits in the middle. I don't actually know what they're called. Anyway, so 5 stitches, a very it's not a simple pattern. I'd say it's a little bit advanced, but I believe even those that have never embroidered before are going to be able to do this. And if you'd like to join in and take part, you can find this pattern on my website, which was in the link to my YouTube account. So I have already made a start. To set up your hoop with your pattern, please take a look at my first video. It's about 25 minutes long, but it covers all the basics in what materials to use, how to set up your hoop to make it nice and tight, because you want your fabric nice and tight like a drum. But all the techniques on how to do that is in my first video. So if you are new to this and you've not set up, please take a look at my beginner's video so that you can set yourself up and be ready to stitch. So once you've set yourself up and you're ready to stitch, I've decided to do the satin stitch for the heart black outline. The satin stitch does take practice to master, but as you can see, my satin stitch, if I can just get it to focus, it will focus, there we go. It's not smooth around the edges because I'm really bad at satin stitch. I've done it quite a few times and I still can't get a very, very smooth edge. I have all these lumps and bumps. Some people can do the satin stitch and straight away they've got it to perfection. My son, the first time he tried satin stitch, he does it perfectly. I'm so envious. So to solve my messy edge problem, I'll just turn it around to this bit. I've used a back stitch just to neaten up the edges so it doesn't look all lumpy, bumpy and messy. But to start off with, we have to do the satin stitch all the way around and then give the edge. For me personally, you might do it perfectly. If you do yours perfectly, there's no need for you to do a back stitch around the edge of it. Or if you just like the look of it, do the back stitch anyway. So for a satin stitch, what we need to do is, you can see the 2 fine lines. Let's get it to focus. There we go. The 2 fine lines that I've drawn, and remember guys, I use the Micron, there we go, fine liner pen, which is a 005 size. The tip is literally invisible. Let's see if we can get it to focus. There we go. You really cannot see how small and fine that tip is. And I use that on all my patterns. It explains everything in the beginner's video. So you have Let's get focused again. 2 fine lines, which is the edge of the outline of the heart. And what we need to do is our stitches need to be angled, not straight, because if you do it straight, it just seems like you cover less area and that the stitches take longer. And I also stitch, because I show the back, so all the thread is going across the front. That's your paint. You're painting with your thread, so you're filling in the colour with your thread at the front, but you're not filling in the space at the back, because that's a waste of thread. What you're doing is you're coming back out where you went in, right next to where you went in, so that you're just like moving the stitch next to each other, not going across, because you can end up with messy knots and wasting thread. This saves thread. So I'm going to come up on the bottom line. I'm not going to come up right next to where I've last stitched, just so that you can see what we're doing. So I'm coming up right on that line and then going at an angle. Let's get some focus. Don't we just love technology, guys? Come on. Yeah, going back in on the line above, but at that slight angle. So there's that angle. Then I'm going to come back up right next to where I went in. So I'm coming back up the top, right next to where I went in. Hopefully, there you go. Try not to come back up through the same hole, obviously. And then going back in next to the bottom line without getting caught on your hoop. And there you go. You've coloured in a small area. And I've dropped my needle. I can't pick it up. There we go. So, as you can see on the back, that is the top of the line. That one little stitch where I came out and went back in. So you're not wasting any thread at all. And that is the satin stitch. So now I'm coming back up through the bottom, which is the last place I went in. Right, I'm as close as I dare to be. I'll go in the top. Now then, you might not be able to see on the video, but there is like a slight gap, slight tiny gap between those 2 stitches, and that's fine. Come back up where you went in between those 2 stitches and go back in the bottom line between those 2 stitches, and you fill the gap that you made. So it's nice. Let's get focus. I really need a better camera. Come on, focus. Focus. Oh my God, it's like talking to a pet. Sit. There we go. Focused. So now there's no gap. Come on. Camera's really not being my friend at the minute. Is it because of my hand? There we go. Now there's no gap between those 2 stitches. But as you can see, my edges are just really messy. So fill in the line all the way around, going from the bottom to the top, or the top to the bottom. You're going in and coming out right next to where you went in. So try and keep it at an angle. You may find that you might start stitching straight. If you do, then just on the next stitch, make that angle and then fill in the gap. I'm just filling in the gap right now of where I didn't start right next to itself. And there you go. So just a couple of minutes. This is a 10-minute, hopefully 10-minute video, just to show you how to do the satin stitch. So do that all the way around. And then in video 2, I will do the back stitch around the edge and the back stitch around the leaves, the stalks of the leaves. Okay, so I look forward to seeing all your progress. Please post them in our Facebook group. You can find that, just type in Embroidery and my pages should pop up.